I'm so excited. Okay, welcome back, y'all. Today is another of the bringing the folks back from the past, another series, another installment in a series. I guess I'll say it that way. And it's fascinating because if you would have listened to the episode, 2 episodes before this, I was spoke with Dr. Chris Linder, and we mentioned this person, and said I was so excited to have this conversation. So welcome. Please introduce yourself and tell us how you're doing.
Thank you for having me, Marvette. Dr. Lacy, put a little respect on your name. My name is Niah Grimes. I have a PhD in education, and I really feel like I'm a transdisciplinary scholar because of all of my different trainings. I'm doing really well. My spirit is well. I was saying physically I'm tired. My spirit is well, and I can see the light coming too for rest this summer.
Oh, summer. I listen to this and it's already summer, but oh, I just hope for everyone that you are somewhere in some sun, taking a nap under a good book, with a great drink, whatever that drink is for you. But
Mhm.
yes, thank you for joining us today. And usually I have an idea where I want conversations go, but I'm like, whenever we talk, they just go all the places. And so, I don't know, but I will say, I'll start off this way. Thinking back to maybe like a few starting the doc process where you are now, what were some of your what expectations did you have for after PhD and how has like reality, I guess, met or not met those expectations?
So
Wherever that
many
goes.
emotions. So many emotions. Like as soon as it's all synchronous, we were just talking about spirit before we started the podcast. And it's also synchronous because this has come up a lot recently in my conversation. So I think a few things, and I want to temper this, especially for folks who might be where I was.
Mhm.
The biggest thing for me was I thought, okay, I'm going to do this really hard thing, and then things are going to get easier for me. Easier at work, people are going to listen.
Mhm.
I'll have more control and autonomy over my work, which means I'll be working less and I'll be resting, and I'll have power and control and peace and money. And I just like glamorized that this degree would answer all of the things that I was traversing in clinician work and student affairs work. If anything, the degree just prepared me to do that work more strategically. It got me more opportunities to do different types of work or work that's like very aligned with what I want to do, but there's more of it. It's harder. I'm exhausted and there's not a lot of money. There is and there isn't. Like you can
That
get to the
part.
bag, but it just takes a lot of work. I think that was like the biggest thing is that I just really put it on this pedestal, like this is going to answer everything.
Mm.
And it didn't. Like I do have a lot of power and a lot of privilege. I love the autonomy and the power, and there's a lot of work. Secondly, I thought when I defended my dissertation, it was going to be like that weight I've been carrying all along would have been lifted. And no, it wasn't. All I felt was scared because I didn't know how I was going to eat yet. Everyone's looking at me like, well, you a doctor. And I'm like, where's the check? Because for my family, and I think for a lot of folks, that's what mattered. And then for me too, just my own security, it's like, why go through this hard thing and not have that? And then being choosy because I'm me and I just can't ever just take the easy route. So I was like, well, I can only live here
Mm.
in this demographic location. And I was open to the job type, but it had to be aligned with like certain things that I wanted to do and a certain level of autonomy. And it had to come with a certain salary. Cause like I am disabled and with a physical disability, in addition to, my neurodivergence, it takes a lot of care, and care in this day and age is money. Like it takes money to take care of myself. So I was like, I can't make lower than X. It's got to come with X, X, X. So I was on the market for 2 years, just like, I'm going to figure it out. And I think that took away some of just like the good feeling I thought I was going to get once I defended. Like it was just going to be lifted, like, and it wasn't. And so then when people are expecting me to be happy, and this happened after every defense, people are like, aren't you happy? No, I'm not.
Mm.
I'm tired. I'm going through a health complication right now that's extremely painful. I don't know where my next check's coming. And I just did this hard thing that only like a very few people understand, and an even very, very smaller amount understand from my sort of identities or perspective. And then I think the other thing is just like there's such a gift in dissertating but I was so miserable during it because I was like, oh, it's so hard. And I think I almost got into this loop of like, PhD life is hard and I'm miserable. And I didn't see this gift of like, I'm creating this own study. They're low key, this committee's letting me do a lot of different free things that like you don't get to do. And that's a privilege. And I don't have to focus on anything else. And I was not present or grateful with that. I just wanted it to be over. And then when it was over, I had to deal with all of this that I talked about before that I wasn't ready to deal with. So just more gratitude for my present moment and not expecting it to be the end all be all, but that, it's very purposeful that I'm doing this to be able to tap into strategic work to change our environment, to shift, culture towards love, equity, those things. So yeah, those will be the biggest things that have been coming up for me.
I mean, I'm like, that was a whole, let's be done now. That was a whole word. And we don't always know while we're going through things. And having some time to reflect back, I mean, I'm assuming you had some time to reflect back. What would you say, if like, what are some of those things that help pull you through that process? Because, right, like, I could imagine being like, you know what? It's not worth it. Peace out.
What's so funny is I never really want to quit things. Like, I wanted to quit softball. Wasn't good at it. I didn't like it. I was bored. I was like, this is a waste of my time. Like, that's one thing I remember vividly quitting. But like, for the most part, I'm not a quitter. And I usually am very intentional. So when I start something, I'm like, this came with a whole intention and thought, and it's usually spirit led. But I wanted to quit every year, every day. I was just like, I have a terminal degree. Why am I here? Like, I'm watching all my friends or folks younger than me, or the folks, because I was in career services. So you're helping all these dope, brilliant scholars get all these jobs across the country with bonuses and salaries bigger than the one I got. I'm like, make it make sense, Lord. If I can help them get that check, why my bag so small? How did I even get there? What was I before that?
You don't like to quit things.
Oh, right. So it was odd for me to just feel like every year, every step of the way wanting to quit. Even up until like finishing my dissertation, I was just like, I don't need this. And what really got me through was always sort of remembering the why. And my why was deep. Like, it wasn't grounded. Like, I didn't need to be called doctor. Sometimes I forget when I need to use it. I think I need to use it more than I use it. So it wasn't really about that. I didn't need it to get like more money in my job necessarily. Like, I could necessarily, I guess I could counsel with a license now on a college campus if I wanted, but I didn't need it. I can write and create without it. All of my friends who are in entertainment and media, some of them have master's degrees, but a lot of them don't. So really, I wanted to try to impact change in all the levels and all the ways. I don't want to be told no when it comes to creating equitable practices, especially in the environments that I'm in that it can influence. And that's what the rub I was coming up against, is I was counseling folks and all minoritized people. Their issues weren't their issues. And I was like, well, if we know this, I'm not going to sit here and waste your time, take your money. Like, we can cope, we can talk about this and that, and help you traverse this as much as possible. But really, we're dealing with a culture that seeped in a misalignment with God, nature, spirit, like all of it. And we're so complacent that we just like allow it to happen. So I was like, I need to have some power in that. So I just kept reminding myself of that. And then it was dope having like foremothers and fathers like Angela Davis, or Martin Luther King. I feel like people always think of Martin Luther King, who did this thing too. Who thought like, it is important for us to develop as scholars, as thinkers, especially to free Black and Indigenous folks. And I think everyone is Black and Indigenous. So once everybody reconciles that we are like, separation is illusion, you're Black and Indigenous. So when you hurt in your mind, you're hurting yourself. I'm over it. Yeah. We know this. We've known this. I shouldn't have to keep writing it or citing it. I need shit to change now. I'm tired. I'm in pain. I don't have the time. Yeah. So I just thought like this degree will help me say that in a way, or, and it has and it hasn't, but it definitely has more than anything. So it was worth it. And just knowing the people I know, like you, my favorite scholars, like, my advisor who you mentioned, but just like
Mhm.
my scholar sisters and friend group, it's a privilege to just be around creatives and thinkers all the time who want to shake shit up, but then are like so authentic.
Yeah.
Just want to know, I feel like we're hidden. Ratchetdemic,
Mhm.
shout out to us. So yeah.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to frame my question because I can see it. I what I was talking with Chris about is like our ability to hold space for us and to allow us to figure things out, even when we didn't always agree or get it, but still not like getting in the way and then sometimes being like, go harder. And you're like, okay, wait a minute, calm down, girl. Like you can go harder.
Not there yet,
I'm not
Dr.
there.
Linda. Right.
And in no way saying like, oh, it was just perfect, right? Like not in this like idealistic way. And just tell her like you are doing things that most faculty don't have the tools to do. And I think about your process, and especially as getting closer to the end, even though committee has the best interest and everybody's rooting for you, we can still have privileged identities that get in the way of our understanding or just lack of knowledge or awareness that gets in the way of someone can say, hey, I'm navigating these things, like I'm in pain, or I need to do a process in this way, or I need these particular accommodations. And I find it not just thinking about your committee, but just in general, like, yeah, I know in theory folks need accommodations, but that shouldn't count in this process. And I guess my question is, what would you go back and tell that version of you who was navigating, dissertating, advocating for yourself, going through different procedures, just trying to survive? And I'm making some assumptions and saying, I'm sure parts of that was lonely and confusing and overwhelming. And so, yeah, if you can go back and speak to her, because I don't believe in time in that way, going back and speak to her, like,
Time is fluid. Keep it
yeah.
spiritual always. This is what I love from Marvette. What would I tell
Or
myself?
maybe even do. Maybe you don't have to, maybe it's not words.
Yeah, I would just probably just hug her and hold
Mhm.
her, like rock her, rub her, just console her. I'm gonna cry just thinking about it
Mhm.
because it was very isolating and lonely. Thankfully, I had progressed further than I had ever been in just recognizing like, Niah, you are disabled. Like you're severely disabled.
Yeah.
And it's not just that you're neurodivergent, because I don't consider that a disability. I think that's a difference.
Mhm.
But like, my diagnosis, my physical diagnosis makes it hard for me to live and meet my daily needs. That to me is disabling.
Mhm.
And, I started join these support groups and seek folks who were in chronic pain every day and understood. And it just became the most validating experience. So I guess I would tell myself, seek your folks sooner.
Mhm.
Fuck able-bodied people telling you how you should feel. I care so much. I've been working with my counselor around this because she was like trying to help me understand in the ways that I'm a people pleaser related to like my trauma and abuse like history. And I was like, I'm so assertive and confident in like my strength, my knowing, my ability to not know and what I don't know. I said, I can't be a people pleaser. And then he was like pointing out the facts. And I was like, well, facts are facts.
Yeah.
It just also, so I think I would just tell myself like, everybody isn't your friend. They're going to want more from you than you can give. Let that shit go. Do
Mhm.
not care. Like your health, your care, your sanity, your well-being is important above everything. And anyone that can't respect that, they need to work on their health, their well-being, their sanity. And that doesn't have to mean anything. Like that doesn't have to mean I'm wrong or I'm bad. And I was just internalizing all these messages that was really impeding my care for so long. And I could have been in less pain
Mhm.
emotionally and physically. So I would tell myself, like, yeah, get through that quicker. And use your voice. You have it, you know what you need. And to be honest, that's such half the battle. A lot of folks can't articulate what they even need, don't have the language to articulate it. I gotta use
Mhm.
that. And so I think those are the things I would really focus on. But what was dope though is that the more I spoke up, about my experience. The fact that, yeah, y'all are worried about class and you got these partners in these villages, in these communities, or maybe you might have like your disease is a symptom of my disease.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be cute when people would bring up things and I'm like, I had that surgery 3 times already. Or like, just not even recognizing the extent to which some people can be sick and then still functioning. And then how it was, I lie
Mm.
and that I fake well. And it's
Yeah.
a lie. And I don't really like, honesty is so important to me. And so I had to reconcile that. Like, well, when you fake well, you are lying. And if you don't want to be a liar and you want to be like honest,
Mm-hmm.
you have to show people that you're not well. Because all they see is what you publish and accolades and that, well, she got a doctorate and blah, 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 blah. And then, I get to be used as like this essentialism of, well, this is what the disabled folks can do. And it's like, nah, some disabled people aren't working, they're at home, they can't work, and they need help. And they're just as valuable and important as someone like me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like trying to reconcile that. So yeah, I would say those things. Like I just wasn't ready and wasn't like I was advocating for myself structurally and like to help get through the finish line, but not the ways that I needed to show it for myself emotionally. And I took on way more harm that was self-inflicted that like I just like if I can limit any harm, especially self-inflicted harm at all costs. Cause like
Mm-hmm.
why take on more harm than we already have to face?
Yeah. That's beautiful. I have probably been more forceful about it. I don't have any apologies. To clients to say essentially fuck how they feel. Don't get over it. What do you need? And a friend of mine was saying, that is really challenging for people to sit with that. First of all, like to see the truth of the situation of like, yes, people can really be foul and be intentional, malicious with it. So yeah, there's a lot more people who are not, they don't know, and the impact is the same. Right? And so sitting with that and then saying, and then what is your responsibility? Like at what point do you want to stop betraying yourself? Because or setting what's that saying? Like setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. And that has been the thing that I've been obsessed with is like how to help people see that in a way and even continue to do my own work, right? Like and that's how I look at people pleasing in all its forms, but particularly when you need very real things. You need dignity and people don't always know to give it to you. I'm trying to get my words together, but like how to get people to say like people you can't control everyone else, but you can control you. And do you have the courage to just be honest with people? Like, no, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on. No, I don't understand what you just said. No, I don't get it. No, I'm not going to do it that way. Yes, these are my circumstances. Yeah, I get that you don't like it and I still need this. Like how to help people do those things because a lot of people are just like, well, I'm just lucky to be here. With all my minoritized identities, I'm just lucky that they let me be in this program. And so I don't want to rock the boat. And I'm just like, burn this shit down. It ain't even real. So you can say what you want to. But I also understand that for them, it's like, well, it's easier for you to say you're on the other side, but I'm still in this thing.
Well, I'm not on the other side, right? So I'm in it and I was on probation this year. And if you think like, and it was definitely, I would say intentional because it wasn't like I went in and was like, no, I was just honest though. Like if there was an event I couldn't attend because of my health or like a family emergency, like I would always prioritize those things because that's my ethos. That's what I teach my students. That's what I think all humans should do.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to like live by that. And also as like a scholar, people are going to be citing my work. And I remember being frustrated with scholars who would write these things and then I meet them or know them and they are not practicing the things that they write. And it was so disenchanting and disheartening. And I was like, they're not going to catch me slipping. As much as I can be aware and hold. And that is also too why I have a tribe that will hold me accountable to when I am slipping or I try to be intentional. Like I say, fuck capitalism. So y'all know I don't use Amazon and like I haven't shopped at Walmart in years. Mm-hmm. Then you have to make, we're all compliant. And so it's like, I will be as less compliant until like I'm fully sustainable. in ways that I feel like are congruent, but like we don't know. So it's always like charting this path, trying to learn as you go. And that's what I want the systems to do more of. So I was just really honest with like my department chair, my dean, my folks around what's going on. I remember, I think it was our second faculty institute, and I was going through a whole miscarriage, and it was painful because of my complications with my illness. So I didn't know what was going on. I was scared. I was alone. My mom and my partner are like, can you drive? Should you just go to the hospital? Then I'm like, I'm new here. I'm not trying to have like the ambulance on campus. I've done before. There have been ambulances on several campuses across the country for me. Like, I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So just like, but people don't understand, like most people might go through that in like a year. That was how I popped off the semester. And then like I ended the semester with like one of our matriarchs dying. And it just doesn't stop. But also this is consistent with the literature. Like I always look to adverse childhood experiences. And I'm like, yes, we know, like if we're talking about me as like a longitudinal case study of traversing higher ed, like with the amount of ACEs for more that I have, like I should be dead. I do have a chronic illness. I should be addicted to all types of things, opioids, suicide, like all of that is typically what you see with folks with a background similar to mine. And so I think the more that we disrupt and talk about what we need and talk about what we're experiencing, because people have no idea. And if I'm faking well, they think you're lying, you're just trying to get out of stuff, you're flaky. And it's like, be clear, I wouldn't be here for that. Like, I wouldn't have to be here if that was the case. I wouldn't. But it's like, I think when you talk about the why, regardless, I'm in pain. I'm in physical pain, whether I work or not. And so I'd rather try to do as much transformative work as I can because it helps me stay alive. And like people who aren't in pain every day, they don't have to think about that. They don't have to think about like, what do I need to stay alive and make it through the next day? Because I know I'm going to wake up in pain. Yeah. Ooh, it's heavy. I always talk about the heavy shit. This is why I can never get published. And people are like, what do you talk about? And then they just like, I get the glazed eyes, like, shut up.
No, like change isn't always seen immediately, right? And I can feel it. The people who are reading your work, engaging with it, it's resonating with them. It might not be right now, but listen, because the way next generation is, I'm like, oh, let's just have supplies on deck. I don't know, the millennial in me is like, I just feel like we just need to get some food and some care packages. Because I don't know what's gonna happen. They don't have any regard for their life or look concerned.
Yes, food and care packages need to be on deck at all times in all places. Don't get me started.
Like,
Seriously.
I'm not here to stop you. Just want to make sure you have what you need to keep going. um, and speaking of those who coming behind you, what are some of the tangible things that how you show or teach your students to take care of themselves?
Oh, wow. So yeah. So it's funny. I don't know if any of my students will ever hear these things. You know me, I don't believe in social media. I think it's doing more harm to an already harmful place. And as much as we can, y'all set boundaries, like make it safe for you, get off, whatever. But so like I don't get to put a lot of this stuff out there, but I'm spirit led. So it's like, I don't get like, like you're great at that. Like who's gonna get hurt? Like I just don't do those things in those ways.
Yeah.
I have talked to my students a lot this semester about healing because I was teaching counseling, and it was like a specific objective of the course was for them to develop a self-care practice. And it's so hard for people to be well, is what I learned.
Yeah.
Like they're good at cranking out papers and presentations and doing the thing. But when I would tell them like, don't do anything but something that like brings you joy today or will help towards your wellness goals. So it might be just like uncomfortable, but you know that in the long term it'll help you be well. They report back like I couldn't do it. I ended up working, doing this, doing that, doing that. And it's almost like through capitalism and that work, we get to evade and like not deal with our shit either. It's easier to work than like sit with the root of why you just lashed out at your partner or your child or your friend, right? Or, whatever it is that might be showing up for you. And so I think that ultimately, like, I wish that we would all recognize to get to where we want to go, healing is the way. Like, I think the more that I focus and prioritize my wellness, the better I show up.
Yeah.
And then again, like that honesty of like, when I'm there too, like I'm there. And when I'm not there, like pray for me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably not well, or I'm
Yeah.
supporting someone who's not well, or I'm resting. It's so sad that my free time, like rarely is it filled with joy because it's
Mm.
usually filled with those things. And like, how sad is that? I want more for all of us. And I think the more that we're all well, the better our communities can be well, the more that we can get to that joy, to that leisure, to, just like kicking it and laughing and just being. And that's what I want for more people. Because I just know ultimately, like our work environments, everything is better when people are happier, fed, and
Yeah.
all like holistically. So it's like priorities. What I've learned through pain is that wellness has to come first for, physically, emotionally, spirit, like it has to come first. You will not function.
Mm-mm.
And even though you might be like getting by, at what cost? And so yeah, just making it a priority and then trying to like really teach like, okay, well, what does it look like? One of the pieces I'm trying to put it into words now, like what is healing? Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm really good at it. And so I like want to help more and more people because that's what I feel like my students are like, what is it? And it's like you do it, and how do we do it in ways that are going to push us forward towards our goals? Because sometimes I feel like we rely on the things that got us through, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to get us to where we're going.
Mm-mm.
And so
Yeah.
it's like you got to shed and you got to learn new coping. You have to learn new thinking. You have to learn that your thoughts ain't your thoughts, they not real. Like it's, you have power in so many ways and claim it. You're not perfect. Like we're all just as raggedy as we are
Mm-hmm.
the light of like God and nature. So it's like just like reconcile with that. Like you're gonna show up raggedy sometimes. You can choose not to show up raggedy again if you didn't like that. Like power, just giving
Mm-hmm.
students and folks their power back. We're told we're marginalized, systems of domination are non-changing, we're compliant, and like what, unless we mass revolt or just stop, what it's not gonna end. And I just don't believe that. I think that just like we got here, it happened in small ways of building on harmful behaviors. And I think we can unbuild that. Like we know how to love,
Mm-hmm.
we know how to take care of ourselves. We've done it. Tapping into like, I feel like saying Kofa, you popped it off with like looking back. Like
Yeah.
we have the tools. So it's just practicing those things with discipline, even if it hurts. Because ultimately, it's just like the freedom and the joy that comes, it's unmatched. And I feel more joy and freedom and gratitude, even though I'm in pain.
Mm.
I have about a week, maybe. I get a week, a month of pain freeness if it's a good month.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
yeah, and I still can tap into those things. So yeah, that's what I want for students. These accolades and these jobs and these things just don't matter more than their spirits.
No.
Yeah. So
Try to think of the book. Book was like the 5 things from terminally ill, like the regrets. I don't know. I forgot the title and put it down. But like one of the things, like one of the last regrets is like not allowing myself to be happy. And that just always like sit with me of, because I'm like, why are we doing all of this? Why are we chasing all of these things? I mean, it's great that we like to say like, oh, I'm doing it for other people, I'm doing it for liberation, and it's at the same time it's like, well, you haven't experienced any pieces of liberation, so really the honest question is how you gonna help somebody else get somewhere you ain't got to.
period. Because
Yeah.
here's the thing, like when you take care of you and you are just genuinely happy, I notice when I show up that way, it is infectious. So no matter what space I'm in, people are happy too. They're like, girl, I'm like, yes. And it could be strangers. Like, let me have some energy to really pour into folks. And I think what is it, like the 7 spiritual laws of success? I think it's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that pouring in, that like those little things to me have a far lasting impact. And if like things like that were happening in mass, I just don't think we would allow for any
Yeah.
of them, like any
Mm-mm.
of it. So I love that. And I try to get to happiness and joy as often as I can. And I find gratitude is often always like the path to it.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe, I'm like, time was like whoosh. As you are, I mean, we're at the end of this academic year, and we know the things don't stop and our students don't stop. But as you are now like working with the students and helping them along their way, what intention of joy would do you have for them, or any, I guess, words of encouragement for them as they begin to navigate this process and get to the other side of the dissertation?
Yeah, like we have such an opportunity in whatever facet of education like you're connected to. Like you don't get more human than learning. It's like the most human thing there is to do. And so for me, it's like we have a privilege to do that. Like you are obligated to do that, and it's what you're made to do. Let go of what it should look like. There is no should. There are guidelines, parameters, suggestions. And I think that for each student, I just wish they would tap into like their unique gift and strength, and what is it that they are to bring to this process, to this work, to their field, to their communities, and lean hard into that unapologetically. It's so hard to see students like jaded and bogged down, and I wish that, yeah, I could just be like, forget what doesn't matter and like focus on the gift of what you've been given, and like the gift that you are. Cultivate that in this time that you have, so that you can just be as transformative as you can. Right? Because I'm not here without transformative educators or bad ones. I'm here because of them too. Y'all know who y'all are. Y'all listening, and I made it. And if I wanted to be president, clearly I could have done that too. I changed my mind. I'm not going to name names, but I almost said a teacher's name. I don't want no lawsuit.
Oh,
I'm so I'm so angry. I don't know. It's that
listen.
Easter, like that Northeastern. I don't know. I'm aggressive. I'm angry though at a lot. We should be. Okay. We don't even have time.
Listen, lately I'm like, everybody tell you about inner child work with this inner teenager though. I don't know why I'm just so angry, but I'm here for it. But I'm also like, girl, like if I could have a break for a minute, like a warning, because you just came out, you just now you real angry. And
like you saw, like I was super chill, like in my like, like elevated elder bag for a little bit. Like I was there, like I felt it, I was accessing it. And then as soon as I went back into the past, it was just like, oh, you remember? And a lot of it too is right, though, I was so silent in those moments, sitting in class being told like you're dumb, you're not going to be able to do this. Like I've been told some of these things publicly in a class full of people.
Yeah.
He could have got all these hands. It's
And
fine though.
listen, she remembers, like, but I still got these hands though, because I remember. You're like, okay.
It's funny because like I've met like mentors or professors who are like, and like, you can't say that to a Black woman, but it's like, this Black woman is angry, Black femme. Like, I'm angry and I should be. Y'all got me all the way effed up. And I'm not going to lie about it.
No. And I'm gonna still grant you peace and love at the same time, because all things could be held at the same time.
They're complex because it do. Like I do.
Yes.
It's funny because it's Chris, I swear, theme of the podcast. He and I are working on the study together, and that is already an emerging theme of like holding the both end of like your raggedy and your humanity, because we have too much power to be as raggedy as we are. Like we have to do better in education. We have to do better in research. We know what the issues are. So why do we keep doing the same things that we know are problematic?
Oh, I can't wait, y'all. The manuscripts come out.
I know. I'm getting paid to write in June, so just trust. I'm coming with that heat, but y'all know y'all not going to see it till like 2025.
Yes, the way that this is set up.
Oh, I digress. This was so much fun. I needed this.
Yes. Glad. Thank you for sharing your time, your wisdom, as always. The contact information you provided, I would definitely put in the show notes for folks. But listen, y'all, this is podcast now. Whether she respond or not, it's not because of you. It ain't personal. It's just.
I mean, the quickest way to get me to respond is if it comes with a check. You need me to speak.
There we go.
No. But any students or anyone that needs support, y'all know I'm a sucker for anybody that needs support. So yes, please reach out. And Marvette, I just appreciate you so much. Anything anything you need. I've said this several times, but I will always show it for you because you're doing the work that I think is most needed and however I can support you. So this was a blast.
Yes, I don't take that lightly. So thank you so much. Okay, hit me up.